is that you're front line. Mm-hmm. You're the ones that people come to help with their situations. And sometimes you don't know that that's the case.
Not until we get right on the tattoo.
So if somebody comes to you, I'll start with you, right? So somebody comes to you and says, my father died, and it was a while ago, but we want to do something, and you can answer this too because you've just done it. So how does that make you feel, and how do you go about the process?
I mean, for me, I lost my father recently, just last year, so it's quite a personal subject.
Yep.
But it's a really nice thing to do for someone to like be able to give them something to remember that their father or whoever in their life.
Yeah.
But for me, like the first thing I want to do is find out like what they represent that person with, like because it's easy to go, I'm gonna get dad, I'm gonna get a date, I'm gonna get something very like to the point, but to think about something like more artistic, to like think of something that represents them in like a more aesthetic way.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing to do.
It's cool. Well, you recently had some people come in, but the woman, she had a floral design, didn't she?
Yeah, the handwriting.
The handwriting in the middle.
Yeah.
But this wasn't new, was it?
No.
Her father had died.
It's been about like 9 years, something
Okay.
like that.
How does that make you feel personally when somebody comes to you with that?
Well, I mean, it is an absolute honour to start with that you could be trusted with such an important thing to someone. Like, even taking out the memorial side of things, like being trusted to do any tattoo is an honour. Like, because you are changing someone for life. But when it comes to something that important, it's just like you have to do it right.
Yeah.
There is no other way. It has to be right.
If they come to you with a bad idea, okay, I'll ask both of you separately. If they come to you with something you perceive as a bad idea, right? I can't think of it, for instance, but they come to you with they want a orange square on them, and you can't see any reason for it. Do you question it?
It's definitely something to talk about, because it might, to me, looking at it, it might just be an orange square, but to them there could be like the bigger story behind it, like loads of different things. And also I really like the type of memorial or like honouring tattoo that is always get someone to ask you about it. So it's like, if you see someone who's got an orange square and you're like, what's that for?
Right.
It gives you the opportunity to like have a chat about it and like talk about this person who's passed and like relive some memories and stuff.
Cool. Do you feel like you're allowed to ask?
Yeah, I feel like I'm allowed to ask. Like, especially something, if it was just like an orange square, I'd make sure they know the meaning of it, and like you said, people are gonna ask you questions about it. So I would make sure they know that people are going to ask them questions, because if it is a sensitive subject, you might want to put it in a more hidden place, just so you don't get those questions, so you don't have to relive it over and over and over. But then if it is something like an orange square, which is very like transient, like it's hard to find a meaning. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can make up a meaning for it.
Yeah. We get a lot of handwriting.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it, and I get that, and I don't have any issue with that. My problem comes with portraits. Let's talk about that, right? I talked about it with Holly. Right? If I come to you with my I don't know, whatever, whoever, right, and they're no longer with us, right? You have to do that portrait. How would that make you feel as a human being before you're a tattooist, and then how does it make you feel as a tattooist?
Before you're a tattooist, like.
Because you're a human being first,
yeah,
and a tattooist second. How do you react to that?
A portrait is so much pressure.
Yeah,
I'm immediately on the back foot of like, okay, so you want an exact copy of someone from a photo that you've seen them in person for years.
Yeah.
And I've got this little tiny photo that's probably blurry, that's probably not got all the details I need to like convey that.
Yeah, as you said earlier, like we could do, like someone could do an absolutely perfect rendition of a photo, and it can look like that photo, but that photo might not actually look like them in their everyday lives.
I think I'm right in saying that when you give somebody a photo of somebody you love, you have a deeper perception
Yeah.
than the front picture on the top of this paper that's made out of ink blots, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is, you have no idea what the actual relationship to that person is. Yeah, it might be your dad, it might be your mum, it might be whatever, but they might have hated that person and had a different thing, or loved them so much, but they loved one part of it. I remember, right, this will sound really odd, but my mum had these creases in her eyes, in the corner of her eye, right? So when she's doing it, now I know if I give you guys a picture of that, right, you're not going to see that. You're not going to even know that. How do we as industry professionals deal with that situation? Do you know how?
Talking.
Yeah, but then the real reason, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's okay, isn't it? It's okay
Yeah.
to say no, right?
Yeah, it's okay to not be able to do everything. Like,
Yeah.
We're not printers.
No, you're also not robots.
No.
Also, it opens my eyes occasionally talking to other people, because obviously I know everything there is to know. But sometimes I lack in a knowledge and perception, and obviously both Holly and Dan, they're people who think a lot deeper than I do. But when you find a realisation of the fact that, yeah, we're here to people pleased, right? How do you make sure? Like, how do you both make sure that people are okay when they're here and they're looking after them, but also manage to look after yourself?
Communication. When it comes to, like, customer side, like checking things so many times, making sure people are okay, making sure they're comfortable, they're warm enough, like they're private enough. Yeah, or like private enough, like putting up the partition, the screen. But for us, I'd say like setting boundaries is important.
Yeah. Expand on that.
Just because people want to talk to us like we're therapists.
Yeah.
And we are not trained in any way. So it's hard to...
Not cross lines.
Yeah, not cross lines. Like, I tend to have like a kind of almost like script when someone's talking about something kind of traumatic, because you don't want to pry, but you want to let them just let that out, because it is all part of the process.
I never know quite what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to be engaged enough to ask you the right questions? Or do you want me to give you platitudes? Do you want me just to fence it off by going, no, I feel bad for you, I'm sorry about that? Right, I'll tell you, my honest truth is, and you've both seen it probably, I will ask direct questions where there is no black, there is no white.
Yeah.
So, I asked a woman the other day, is this a knee-jerk reaction to that death? Do you really want this? I feel comfortable doing that, but how would you communicate? If it's about feelings and emotion, and someone's been through a trauma, how do you know as an artist? How do you know if they're ready?
I mean, it depends on the situation, but you need to look at non-verbal communications as well. So most people won't necessarily tell you. They won't immediately go I'm ready to open up. But you can kind of tell from their body language if they're kind of reserved and pulled together. I don't think I'd pry as much.
Yeah.
Unless they're the conversation's going towards that way. I wouldn't need to try and make them comfortable, but still not dance around things.
Yeah, go by their lead. It's if it's something they start talking about. Like I always say, if it's something that I can't immediately tell what it's about, then I'll say do you mind if I ask what this means to you?
That's the key, right? Asking permission to ask the questions you need to. Sometimes that's all it takes. When you're in a situation where someone comes to you and they're with trauma, we are not trained professionals. What we all have done, however, is you're an awful lot younger than me, right? But you all have lived through traumas. You've all lived a life. So there will be some grey area. Is it helpful to try and find some grey area to help you then cope with what you know? You not necessarily spelling it out, I've gone through this, because that just puts your shit onto them.
Yeah.
But
trying to be relatable without also
Trauma
trauma dumping.
yeah, don't trauma dump, because that's not good. Is that part of your everyday life? Do you ever stop and think about that, or do you take every tattoo at face value?
There are some that do get heavy.
Yeah. There's something that are going to get heavy before you start.
Yeah. So being prepared for that, knowing what you're gonna, like, I always find like taking out decisions that you need to make afterwards just so that you don't have to think too much about stuff afterwards. Like if you need time to just go into like a little bit of a shutdown mode, like know what you're going to be eating, know what time you're going home, know what time you're like your journey, what you're up to afterwards, so that you can just like spend time processing what people have told you.
Yeah.
It's important to have rest after tattoos.
Yeah.
To go home and not think. Just
Slug out.
I think. Do you consciously have a coping mechanism?
Probably not, but then my coping mechanism's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
It just kind of happen.
What I often wonder is that if is it a conscious thing you have to cope with? And I'm only thinking about this because it comes from this conversation. You know, when you're in a situation where you're put in, and also as tattoo artists, is there a gravity to what you do?
Definitely, it's an indelible mark, yeah.
Right. So you respect that process, but you've learned how to do it. Right. Here's the other thing about the world we live in. There are tattoo shops that are giving certificates. So you pay £2,000 and then you'll be given a piece of paper that lets you walk into any shop to be an apprentice. Right. What they're actually selling is bullshit. Right. They're making money from air. It's a con. Right. And I'll tell you this now. Any shop that does it, I'm telling you now, you're in the wrong. Yeah, and I don't give a shit who you are, whether you're famous, whether you're well known in the tattoo industry. Come fight me over it verbally, right? Because I hate you for doing it, right? It's that impressive that you've actually got me angry enough to hate something. When you give someone a piece of paper, you are giving them the ability, in their minds, to think they're a professional tattooist. How long was your apprenticeship?
2 years.
How long was your apprenticeship?
About a year and a half.
Right. So in a year and a half or 2 years, you managed to learn everything you needed to know on a basic level. How much would you say the difference is, right, doing it every day? Have you learned more since you've been licensed?
Every day is a learning day. There's not a day that goes by that I'm not like, oh, I didn't think about that. Like,
yeah, or like trying something else out, like trying a different, like even if it's a product or a technique, like it's all
constantly developmental.
Yeah, constantly learning. And as soon as you stop deciding, like, and stop doing that, as soon as you're like, oh, I know it all, that's the time to just like just
You're done.
Yeah.
If you can't relate to the situation, right, you also can't give yourself the benefit of knowing your limits. Right, knowing your limits is not a negative, that's a positive, because if you know your limits, you can go and fucking educate yourself into a way where you have those limits lifted and you can push back. You will never, I'll tell you now, if you said to Paul Booth, arguably, you know, the best biomech artist in the world, if you ask him if he knows it all and doesn't have limits, what do you think he's going to tell you? Right, he's £3 a session, mate. Right, and he's fucking good at what he does, but I guarantee he's still learning. Because also, every skin set is different. Right, skin is also transient, the ink never dries, it's always underneath. So you have to know how to put that in there, not too far, not too deep, you know, and not too shallow, because if it's too shallow, it comes back out. If it's too deep, it blows out.
And not overwork it.
Yeah, and the whole thing.
Too hard.
Arguably, you were overworking my neck the other day. That's why I fired you twice.
It's in there though.
Oh, fuck, yeah, it looks great. That's a joke. I said to him at the beginning of the process, I'm going to fire you 3 times. Right, I'll just reinstate you afterwards. The brutal fact of the matter is, and I think it should be said out loud, I am no longer a tattooist. You know, that's what you do. And I respect the fact that every day you put yourself in a position where you have to indelibly mark somebody. Right? And that's a big thing. So, you know, there are times where you come to work, you have your own life things going on, but you still have to cope with the people in.
Yeah.
So, is the shop environment you work in, is that important to how you function?
That's incredibly important. Like, I've worked in a bunch of different shops, and having the wrong people around you completely affects how you tattoo.
Right.
Like, some of the other shops I've worked in, it's been quite a toxic, like, I don't want to say aggressive, but there's a tension in the air, and it like shrinks you down, and you feel like you're gonna mess everything up.
Right.
And it leads you to more mistakes, because if you're feeling pressure, you're not going to be able to perform at your best.
Okay.
You have to have confidence.
Uh-huh.
You have to feel relaxed.
Where does the confidence come from? Where do you... Right, that's the biggest open-ended question I've ever asked in my life. Is it internal confidence that you've learnt?
Yeah.
So you taught yourself how to Teflon?
It's the way I got to the point where I'm at now when I'm working is it's mostly like a snowball effect of like so like one of my like super early customers as a apprentice, she was so nervous, like she sat on the chair in a weird way and was like really didn't know what to do, and like I was the like
First impression of being...
Yeah, it was like the first impression. I was the confidence for her at that point.
Okay.
And then she relaxed, everything went fine. And then afterwards I was like, this is who I need to be. Like I need to be the like standing structure. People have to have confidence in me. I have to have confidence in my work. And then it just snowballs, like the better you get, the more confident you are, the better you get. And it
people
just...
you talk to, the more experiences you have.
It can be said though that confidence in all things, overconfidence in all things is detrimental to anything. You're overconfident. If you're overconfident at being a motorcycle rider, you put yourself through a fucking hedge, right? If you're overconfident as a doctor, you can be blasé and kill people, right? If you're overconfident as a tattooist, and you, therefore it goes back to boundaries, about learning, about pushing the lines. I have noticed in both of you that you are both conscientious about who you are, dealing with who you're seeing. Also, I also know that some people are genuine fuckheads. There are customers who come in here, you just want to punch in the mouth because Jesus, who the fuck are you people? But every single one of them is treated with respect until the time to not be respectful, and I will tell you when that is and deal with it. But you know, this is the point. As a tattooist, people don't often see it from your point of view. They don't often get to know that you inside sometimes have this, fuck, what am I doing? You're going to have a crisis moment. I only own the shop. I just have to turn up and unlock the door and pay the fucking light bill, right? You guys, as a whole, have managed to find a way to make what you do acceptable to yourselves. And also, when you come out of being an apprenticeship, I mean, you're long gone from apprenticeship, both of you, right? I mean, you know, you're there now. You do this every day. But how long did it take you to realise that, you know, to get over the gravity of it?
I mean, I got thrown in the deep end in my apprenticeship. Like, I had straight to... I didn't work on any practice skin. I didn't really have anything like that. All I did was watch. And then one day my mentor went, "You're tattooing yourself today? Think of a design."
Oh, okay.
So I got thrown in, and once I got over tattooing myself, it was kind of like, okay, I got this. Like,
you realise why you were asked as an apprentice to tattoo yourself, right? Because if you can indelibly mark yourself with something you want to do and take that risk, then you're more than qualified after that, after you've learned to, you know, to make somebody else's tattoo dreams come true by doing it on them instead of just you.
Yeah, you can't, if you can't trust yourself to have a tattoo done by you, then how can you expect anyone else to trust you?
Exactly that. This is why I'm saying about these stupid flipping pieces of paper that you pay $2 for telling you you're an apprentice. Right, if you want to be a tattooist, let's get this out of the way, right? What's the first thing you've got to do if you want to be a tattooist?
go get tattooed.
Form some kind of relationship, right? Have a look at the reality of what you're entering into, right? You did it the right way with me, right? You came to me, you sent me an email going, look, this is what I want to do, blah, blah. Normally, as we all know, I'm like, I can't deal with that. See,
You ignored it.
yeah, I just like, whoop.
So I just came up.
So you came through the door. But what you didn't do is you didn't say, I want, you said, is it possible that you could entertain the thought of this being a reality? And because you told me that one, you had saved up all of the money you needed to do that,
You saved all the money at first?
I had a good job.
Oh,
I used to have a really good job.
I was broke.
I think...
Yeah. But then you told me, like, okay, like, you've got some potential, go away and do these things. and then I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
And I did.
There you go.
Yeah.
That sounds so simple. You were told to go away and do something and you did it. How many times have I expressed some kind of concern? Samuel, just take it off the wall, mate. Alright. How many times have you been in a situation where somebody's told you the route to get where you're going and you just ignore it? Right, because I've been in this shop and announced to the shop, fucking hell, these people. First of all, if you want to be an apprentice, don't send me an email telling me what I'm going to do and what I'm going to do it. Because I'll tell you this, I am so arrogant, I will just be that.
Yeah.
Right, you can be the best artist in the world, but if your outward appearance is arrogance, no.
Baby, yeah.
Off you go. Also, be, you know, what makes you decide you want to be a tattooist? You answer that first.
So I went to college to do art because I didn't want to do the course that I was already doing. So I was like, I guess I'll do art because I like art anyway.
Okay.
And then throughout the process of being in art college, I was like, okay, I want to do art every day. I want to earn a living from art. This is what my whole life can revolve around. And I did a bunch of my pieces on like tattooing and like heavily tattooed celebrities and all that kind of stuff. And someone was like, why don't you become a tattoo artist? And I was like, oh my god, I could.
Did you need permission?
Yeah, I thought that it was such an unachievable thing.
Yeah.
Like only the best of the best are tattoo artists. So I didn't think that that was something that I could do because I had no idea how to get into it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I thought it was just like some crazy like fantasy.
But someone suggested to you that that was an option,
Yeah.
and therefore the floodgates open. That's cool. What about you? How did you get into it?
Well, my dad was a big drinker, so he took me to pubs quite a lot.
Right.
And being a kid in a pub, there's not much to do.
No.
So,
Bottle of Coke packet, Chris in the corner.
and a sketchbook.
Ah, you see, I didn't have the sketchbook.
And I would draw and draw and draw, and the adults around me would come over and look and go, oh, that's kind of cool. And then one day someone asked me to draw a tattoo for them. Like my dad being heavily tattooed, I was already kind of drawing those sort of things.
Yeah.
Like I was looking at the things around me and going, I like these.
Cool.
And someone asked me to draw some tattoos, and I
Are
was
you
like,
freezing to death?
I can't tell if I'm cold or if I'm just.
Right, bear with me 2 seconds. Let's put the fire on, because otherwise, no.
Thank you.
But yeah, mostly seeing other tattooed people is what drew me to being a tattooist. Like I wanted a job where I could look how my dad looked. I wanted to be covered in tattoos, and when I did,
Do you think subconsciously or even consciously it was because your father being your
like a role model.
role model, he was tattooed?
Yeah, honestly, definitely.
So that interested you in think, I see my parents don't have tattoos. And you know, it does. I think I arrived at this juncture because it was part of where I was going with the biker thing and the lifestyle.
The alternative.
Yeah. And it's a strange thing, isn't it? Right. I want to bring this back round to mental health.
Yeah.
I want to know, what do you need as tattooists, right, to look after your own mental health? What do you need from the shop you work in, from your partners, from everything around you? What do you need to be able to function as a tattooist?
I think boundaries, rest,
Support.
Yeah.
Where does that support come from?
Usually family, friends,
Yeah.
or studio manager. Like you were a very supportive studio manager.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I don't know how to deal with that, so I'll just let that go. I have said 3 times now that what I want from this studio is somewhere safe, somewhere professional, but most of all, people come here and have an enjoyable experience. Tattooing is a bit of a shit because it hurts, right? A little bit, right? But if it hurt that much, we wouldn't be busy all day, every day, right? What the key to all of this, right, functioning is you guys. And as long as you're on board with my vision of what goes on, it makes our life easier. So as far as me being a good shop manager is, all I'm doing is facilitating you to be able to work. And if I can do that, then you will flourish.
Yeah.
If I don't do that, then you will leave.
We take all the pressure off us so that we can concentrate on the thing that we do. So you will, like, order suppliers, you will talk to customers, you will bring them in, and you will price things and do those kinds of things. Because if we had to do all of that as well, it means that we've got less capacity to do the one thing that we're doing.
Yeah. You can't do it all. You can't do the thing. My big thing is marketing, and my second big thing, well, no, my first big thing is customer service.
Yeah.
My second big thing is marketing because it interests me. Now, you know me well enough to know that if I'm bored, that's when trouble starts. So I try and get projects to make sure and all that. How do you approach the fact someone comes to you with something you don't want to do? How do you approach that?
Well, I mean, now I'm here. If it's something I don't want to do, it's likely Miki can take it on, which is very handy.
So yeah, that's a valid point, right? If you don't want to do it, 9 times out of 10, you'll do it. Not because you don't want to do it, oh fuck it, okay, I'll do it. It's because that's what you do, that's not what he does.
Yeah, definitely, like, in style.
Yeah.
We're the complete opposites, which is fantastic,
Mm.
because we're covering all
Makes my
bases.
life easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, when you say, it's not about, I think the point I'm trying to make is someone comes into you with something that they feel very strongly about for whatever reason, if that's mental health, if that's just they want it, or they're pushy about the fact they want it because they've got an agenda. If you don't want to do something, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
But not just because I fucking hate infinity thimbles or whatever. What I mean is you don't want to do it because you don't think that you can pull it off to the best of your abilities. So therefore having 2 artists means that if you can't do it, she can. If she can't do it, you can.
Yeah,
I think
there's still nothing wrong with even saying, like, I don't think someone here will be able to do that for you.
I've said that this week.
Yeah, like, it's so much better for the customer to know that they're getting the best they can, and if we can't do the best for them, it's fine. It's all about them. It's not about the money in our pockets.
No.
It's about them having the right work.
I think also it can be said that the money in your pockets is important,
To drive.
right? Well, but I don't think either of you are here because of the money you get paid, and I genuinely mean that. I mean, I am. That's the only reason I'm here. But then I started the thing, and it's my money that pays for it.
Yep.
But you guys earn, and you put through. But I've never seen one of you come to me and say, "Well, that's not enough money," and that tells me something. Now, if the first thing that a tattooist says to you is about money, and it isn't about design, red flag. If the shop manager talks to you about money, that's different. They're not involved in that process, right? Because as a shop manager, I need to facilitate the time, the price, availability of you guys, and also to make sure that you're in a position where you can do the best thing that you can do for these people. You are all about the artwork.
Yeah.
So someone comes to you with 3 different processes. How does it work? What's the process? How do you put something together for somebody?
I start with reference, start with placement. So figure out what they want, why they want it, and then kind of see if I can figure out their style, take them down the route. So like there needs to be a certain level of like line work with tattoos. So if they're going to more like a soft tattoo, and like I'll try and push them into a thing that will last 10 years instead of just like 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always like giving advice, checking with them. Say they have like 3 designs and they're like, I really like these, can you make something from these?
Yeah.
Then it's kind of like, check what bits.
Which bits you like.
Yeah, like, do you like the way the line work is here? Do you like the shading here? Do you like the way this sits right? Do you like this like specific element?
This colour palette.
Yeah, like
So
what is it that you
what
want
you're
from
telling
this?
me, both of you, is it's communication. All things boil down to communication. A lot of people come to tattoo shops and don't realise that they have input.
Yeah.
They feel like, oh, how often have you heard, you're the professional, you decide.
Yeah.
Can't fucking do that, I'm not you.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry about the peak levels there. Okay, so let's go through a couple of things, right? If you're going through something trauma-wise and you want to be tattooed to facilitate that, what advice would you give to people on that? You know, what would you say to somebody who's rushing into something?
I mean, if if it's like rushing into a design, if you're that like rushing, make it your background, your phone. Look at it every day. Keep looking at it. Put it in like your sock drawer. Put it in somewhere you're gonna see every day.
Yeah.
Because the more you see it, if you get sick of it in a week, you're gonna get sick of it real quick if it's tattooed on you.
Cool. I think what people need to know is that you have to find the right people. Holly, Dan found the right people to do their jobs. Found the right people that could not only just do the work, but also could link to them or give them the boundaries they needed to feel comfortable in the situation. So, you know, we have customers, so, you know, who don't want to talk, who just want to face the wall, watch a video and shout about how painful it is, right? Which is valid. You're allowed to do that, by the way. You know, if you need to swear and cry, then do it. It's not, that's what I meant to say ages ago. This is not a strength test. It's not a human endurance thing. It's about art, right? It's not, I've sat there for 23 years and I got tattooed constantly. Well, you're a fucking idiot then, aren't you? Because, what, do you not have a nervous system? You know, that's the thing. As tattooists, what's your biggest piece of advice to new people looking to get a tattoo? What would you suggest? Both of you will have probably different perceptions.
Maybe figure out your overall plan. Like, do you want to be a very heavily tattooed person? Do you want to have full sleeves? Do you want to have patchwork? Or do you want just like one tiny little tattoo and then you can figure it out later? Like, it's a self-expression. Like, how do you want to express?
Yeah. Is there anything studio-wise that you would advise when you're looking for the right place?
I think, as you were talking to Holly before about just making sure you're comfortable, like if it's not something that you've done before and you're nervous about it, then come in, have a chat, scope out the studio, make sure you're familiar with it, make sure that you're happy with the way you're being spoken to, make sure you're happy with like just everything. You've got a good feeling about this, like, and you get excited about it. Like, if you're excited about it, then go for it.
It's the right place to be.
Research as well.
Yeah.
I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that we're not qualified therapists. We're not people that can solve your problems. But as human beings at Madhouse Tattoo, and that's the only place I can say about, we will try our hardest to look after whoever you are and whatever your end result is. And if we're not right for you, then that's cool. We will accept that. Go with your gut. Everyone needs to go with their gut.